Call me fake all you want to, honey. I've been doing this a long time.
Let me tell you something.
People know me.
There was a heartwarming moment between Lynn Jones-Turpin of the Jacksonville Free Press and the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Liam Cohen.
I want to tell you, congratulations on your success, young man.
Thank
You
you.
hold your head up, all right? You guys have had a most magnificent season.
Thank
You did a great job out there today.
Appreciate
So you just hold your head up, okay?
Thank
And
you,
ladies
ma'am.
and gentlemen, Duval, you the one, all
Thank
right?
Mike Harrington of the Buffalo News said, "That's not a reporter. That person shouldn't even have a credential." Mark Long, who covers the Jacksonville Jaguars for the Associated Press, "Nothing awesome about fan/fake media doing stuff like this. It should be embarrassing for the people who credentialed her and her organization. And it is a waste of time for those who actually are working." 27 seconds, huh? Jamel Hill, someone who's a dear friend of the show and a good friend of mine, "That can't be a reporter. Because if so, I would not have used the term awesome." Jeff Pearlman, someone who I sat down not too long ago with the Tupac book, he said, "Lovely, yes. Against the media role, yes. Let fans cheer." Jeff, I'm not singling you out because I want to go off on everyone, but I've been looking at you lately since we sat down, and all I'm seeing is just negativity. Every post is literally the worst person in baseball. This guy was the biggest asshole. Have you ever thought about the reciprocated energy they may just be giving you? Maybe they don't like your entitlement and the energy you give. So instead of them being assholes, maybe they're just giving you back the energy you give them. Shady McCoy, another friend of the program. "Somebody come get their mama. This ain't the Little League where we all get appreciation trophies." And I think what bothers me more about this is 9.5 out of 10 of these people who critique or felt this is out of line are people who couldn't fucking chew gum and tie their shoe at the same time. People who doesn't have any athletic background at all, but it's okay to always spout negative bullshit towards people. Not understanding what it takes to be a professional athlete, not understanding what it takes to get 13 wins in the NFL, not understanding what it takes to make the playoffs, but let someone show some love for 30 seconds and it's the end of the world. I think we
Offense to it. Listen, I've been in this business more than 25 years. I've interviewed from Barack Obama to Terry Bradshaw to what's my guy named Tiger Woods. So he can say whatever you want about fake news. I am a member of the Black Press, NNPA, the National Newspaper Association, that's been around more than 100 years. I'm the associate editor of the Jacksonville Free Press, one of the more than 230 African-American newspapers still printing in this country today. In Jacksonville, you had the Florida Star since 1955. We've been around since 1986. In Philadelphia, the Philly Tribune has been printing since 1884. In my hometown of Detroit, the Michigan Chronicle has been printing since 1935. So support the Black Press. So you can call me fake all you want to, honey. I've been doing this a long time.
Let me tell you something.
People know me. Yes, sir.
My cousin Lance, they're big Packers fans. They came down.
Well, welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known, and I guess we can unpack that again. Is a lot there. So many people, Niele. The best, of course, one of the best is, if not the best, Matt Barnes, that Greer just played. But I mean, from Dan Patrick's show to WFAN in New York, the biggest sports radio station in America, probably the world. Even Uncle Luke sent her a dinner invite. Says that anytime she comes to Miami, he wants to take her or treat her to dinner. And of course, Jamel Hill, Pat McAfee, you name it. This thing has gotten combined has to be 50, 60 million views, Niele.
Well, peace and love, everybody, and welcome to BlackPressUSA, affectionately known as the NNPA morning show. Let it be known, okay? Lynn put it out there yesterday. And so, yes, she elevated. If you didn't know, it's viral moments like that that let you know. And she used her platform to uplift the Black press, and not just even the paper in her city. She was talking about the Philadelphia Tribune. So, yes, it was a viral moment. And to me, Matt Barnes made, I think he brought up some good points, but most importantly, finally, a viral moment of joy and encouragement is going viral, because we've had a lot of negative virals going on, from the president to pop culture to Nicki Minaj. We had an associate editor from a Black newspaper give somebody some encouragement, and it's gone viral. I love it.
Well, yeah.
I love it.
What are we gonna do with it, though? What are we gonna do with that? This is the thing. It's all great. Next year will be 200 years of the Black press, possibly, if it survives. But what are we gonna do with that? We have sometimes been our own worst enemy.
Well,
what Lynn Jones
yeah.
did in that interview, not the coach's interview, the interview on television, was do something very effectively that, as simple as it seems, leadership has not been able to do. It's as simple as that. She made it a point to let people know how important the Black press was. She went and she named papers, like you said, not just her own. And I'm glad to hear, and Jamel Hill brought this up, that Jamel said, I subscribe to the Jacksonville Free Press. I'm glad to hear that others are subscribing as well. But you know what?
I love it.
But until then, Lynn should be running for NNPA president.
Well,
Lynn should be
I don't think that's the story. I mean, that's
my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Exactly. But
my story. But these people who went against, first, I will say this about that, Lynn.
Yes.
Lynn. First of all, it was a overreaction. It is true that is not the norms. I won't say unacceptable, but it's not the norms in a press conference after a major sporting event. It's not the norms. But what is the norm today? What is the norm today? Nobody's calling out that Cleveland reporter who just made love to the coach in the press conference. Nobody is calling out Carolyn Levitt at the White House, because they do that every single day, all day at the White House. Nobody's calling them out. AP got their panties in a bunch, about it. It was the overreaction of negativity, which precipitated the overreaction of all the positive.
I mean, Lynn Jones has been viral on NFL, Sports Illustrated, ESPN, any major, even the news channels, NFL CBS, NFL Fox, TMZ, any news outlet you can think of. She has gone viral for positivity. And I think that should be said, because, I hear a lot of the, people saying, oh, well, that's not the norms. But what the norm is, I think Stephon Diggs is a perfect example of when he just went through those sexual allegations. He hadn't been in the locker room for a few days. And he finally decided to come out and talk to press, not because probably he wanted to, but because he has to. He's a big face of the team. You have to do media. There's no getting around it. Sometimes they don't want to, but they have to. So he's there. And one of the journalists starts trying to he said, I'm here and I'm going to talk about the game and the sport. If you want to talk to me about anything else, I'm not here to do that. A reporter immediately went to ask him a question about his personal life. And he said, is that a football question? I said, I'm trying to be nice. Then the reporter turned around and tried to ask him another way. It didn't have anything to do with the game. And so if we're going to talk about Lynn Jones, it was this or that, y'all do it all the time. Sports people do it all the time. But when it's for a headline that is unrelated to sports, and you get that athlete in the locker room and you ask him about it, what's the difference? I'm just trying to reconcile that. What is the difference?
Right. Listen, what you just said is so true. their personal stuff has no business. It's not the norm. It's, put it that way.
No, it is
it's
the
not,
norm, though, for sports to do that.
No. I'm saying right nowadays, it's not what was once the norm. How about that? It was not what we did. What we were supposed to do as journalists is be down the middle, not taking, just asking the so-called tough questions or whatever. What Lynn did was not the norm, but again, what she did was show another side of humanity. She showed humanity is what she showed. But the fact that she's getting flack is ridiculous because of what you just said. It makes sense what you just said. Y'all don't complain about that stuff. And this is not, listen, and I say, like, when I say in the past, it wasn't the norm or whatever. Journalism school it teaches you the exact opposite of that. The stuff you're talking about and the stuff that even Lynn did with the coach. But that went out the window. And even back then, there were other athletes, for instance, long before Stefan, who had maybe domestic violence stuff or maybe drug stuff, allegations, I should say, another thing. And they brought that into the locker room. The press brought it, not the players. To your point, you know, ask a sports related question. So you're right. Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
right.
at least she was talking about the game. She was talking about the game. So congratulations to Lynn.
She's in touch with her community. The
But that's what
community.
that's what the Black Press does. You know, most of the time, a Black newspaper in your community is not going to kick a person when they're down. They're going to find.
Not true.
They're going to find.
No,
well, yeah.
I'm
It depends
kidding.
on.
I'm kidding. The Black Press. The Black
but for the
Press,
most part,
right.
they do. And they kind of, you know, they kind of sometimes like, oh, you know, that article is overreaching about that person. But
so
I'm seeing what they do.
Right.
That so congratulations
to
her.
But you're right. And what Lynn showed too is like what a lot of folks in the Black owned media space has done, and that is they're human. They can be very compassionate, but they also. We give so much. So in that sense, Lynn deserves that. You know, we work on shoestring, almost zero budgets. We go out of our way to bring quality information. And believe me, folks, if we get the least little thing wrong, we not only hear it from the readers and from the viewers and from y'all, we hear it from the white press. So we get beat on top of the head.
Nancy Wall made a good point, and that's exactly what I was saying about Stefan Diggs. She said, if it's not a football question, they don't have to answer the question. And that's exact. Stefan played those reporters because the reporter came right back around and tried to ask him the same question, but tried to put it on the field. And he was like, does that have to do with football in the game? And the reporter backed down. So to that point, she is right. And I just applaud. And, you know, Black Press went viral yesterday. One of the top 3 stories yesterday was a BlackPressUSA story.
All right. Black female sheriff says she's not scared of MAGA. Philadelphia Sheriff Rochelle Bilal isn't backing down after receiving hateful messages from MAGA critics following her viral remarks against ICE and the Trump administration after the deadly Minnesota shooting of Renee Good. Reports say the sheriff's office received several messages on his website directed at the sheriff, some of which refer to her as, of course, a quote DE&I hire and a disgrace to the uniform. One person went so far as to say it's because of blacks like you that Americans have black fatigue. But despite the anger of the supporters of Trump and his folks, the sheriff said, I'm not scared of these people. I will do whatever it takes to keep myself and my family safe. She was not having it.
And the white men were looking at her with awe. Look at him in the background. Just
awe.
Like, somebody help us. Speak up for us. Speak up for us.
So explain the black man back there, didn't he? What he looking like?
She gonna get us in trouble. We don't need them ICE agents in our city and town. Lord help us. Leave it to a black woman.
That's a shame.
That's what I see in that picture.
I am totally done. She done read the white man back there, probably accurately, and the black.
And the one on the side, you see half his face. She's not reading the talking points. She's not sticking
there you
to
go.
the script.
There you go. There you
And
go.
there you have it. But you know, on a serious note, it is the state and city people are holding the line, and Black people in leadership are really like, hey, we're not about to do this. You know, so even with that, you know, even if you look at, you know, you have this Black sheriff, and then yesterday, news broke in Minnesota State. The officials, I'm talking about Keith Ellison, said they're suing Trump, his administration, his clan, over the widespread immigration operation taking place across the Minneapolis region. So in the lawsuit filed yesterday, of course, after the ICE agent fatally shooting 37-year-old Renee Macklin Good, Ellison said that federal agents during the surge have arrested peaceful bystanders, detained U.S. citizens, and fired chemical irritants at demonstrators and others exercising their First Amendment rights, including outside a local high school, y'all. So the lawsuit calls for Trump and his administration to end its immigration crackdown in the state. Now, this may sound good, Stacy, but Nikema Levy, Dr. Nikema Levy Armstrong from Minneapolis is going to be joining us tomorrow. And I don't think they're going to be happy with this, because we heard Georgia Fort, we heard Toussaint Morrison say that the government and the mayor have the power to arrest Jonathan Ross. It's just if they have the courage. And this may be a sign to say, like Keith Ellison said, we're going to wait, because we can't do it. We just can't do it.
Oh yeah, and Keith Ellison's hands are totally tied, because 100%. The fact that he's federal. He's a federal, and there's no way that
he's state. He's a state attorney. He's a state attorney general.
Right, the state attorney general, but they fall under federal. I mean, they only bring federal charges, is what I'm saying.
Because he's the one that prosecuted Derek Chauvin, right?
He prosecuted
and Derek Chauvin is in state prison. He was in the state case courtroom too.
Okay,
he worked with the district attorney's office.
Yeah, he worked with the district attorney's office. I know. To prosecute Chauvin. Chauvin was prosecuted on both sides. Black Virginia News says AG. So they're under the purview of the Attorney General, the U.S. Attorney General, which is federal. If they're bringing criminal, even I think even their civil cases are federal as well. So that's why that's a big reason why his hands are tied, because it has to be state charges if you want them to stick, if they do anything right now. But to your other point that you made this yesterday too, that federally they would have to wait till this administration changes hands.
Well, that's what he said. Those were words from Keith Ellison,
right.
that they would have to wait.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have to wait, but they could wait. So, like, just saying justice might be delayed, or deferred, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It just might not happen under this administration. That's what he alluded to.
And make no mistake, there's no statute of limitations on murder.
Right. That's what he said.
So he said, okay, so you can charge somebody. You can charge somebody with murder 30 years, 40 years, 50 years later if you wanted to.
And that was his point. But the people and the demonstrators and the activists are saying that the mayor and the city attorney can arrest him if they have the courage.
They have the courage. And if they have the courage, that's the biggest thing. You're right. And it would, I think, doing that, because you can't be worried at this point about, they might send more and it'll aggravate them. They already aggravated. They already send them more. But it would show the people something. I know people just don't want some sort of show, for instance, but I think that would kind of, help a little bit more, as far as the morale, I should say, not morality, but morale of the residents there. because they're beaten down by this.
I mean, what's happening and the videos that are coming out are horrific. There's maybe Greer can post it on the page today, but there was a story coming out, and you had the mayor standing to the left or right, and the sheriff, maybe it was the sheriff to the other side, of a Black Somalian U.S. citizen, right? And he was like 18 or 19, and he was at work, and ICE just scooped him up, took him to the detention center. He kept telling them he had his information on his passport. Just the horrific journey that it took from them to take him there to the detention center. And then when they were to had to let him go, or do you want to play? It's 5 minutes long, Greer. But if okay, she wants to play it. Or maybe not. But this story, if you go to Let It Be Known,
what happened to me was unjust, uncalled for. I was simply on my lunch break. I literally went downstairs from my building. I wasn't even outside for mere seconds before I seen a masked person running at me full speed. He tackled me, pushed me inside the restaurant, like as you can see in the video. I told him I'm a U.S. citizen. What is going on? He didn't seem to care. He dragged me outside through the snow while I was handcuffed, restrained, helpless, and he pushed me to the ground, and he put me in a chokehold. That was very uncalled for. I thought I got really hurt. And after that, they put me inside the vehicle. And they asked me, we have to verify if you're a U.S. citizen because I believe you're an illegal citizen because you ran from me. But as you can see in the videos that will be released, I'm simply just standing still. I asked them, okay, they said, let me take a picture of you to scan your face to see if you're a U.S. citizen. I declined because how will a picture prove I'm a U.S. citizen? I told him I have my passport. It's in my phone. Can I open and show you? He declined. I told him, can I give you my name and my date of birth? He declined. So he took me on the other side of Cedar, and they kept me there for 45 minutes. Just asking, we have to scan your face, we have to scan your face. After about a whole hour, they said, okay, we can do your fingerprints on our phones. And the fingerprints were not working. So I guess they waited on 20 more minutes, and they said, we're going to take you into Bishop Henry, all the way in Bloomington. While they were driving me all the way there, they were wasting time. They kept going back in the same highway. I told them, are you guys lost? But they said, yeah, this is our first time taking someone in. And they had the maps out and everything. And they were trying to intimidate me. So after I arrived at the facility, they parked up, the gate was closed, and they made me step outside in the snow while it was snowing. And they said, we have to scan your face or we're not gonna let you inside the car. So I had no choice. I let them scan my face. I was so cold. I guess the face thing, it didn't work. So they finally took me inside the facility. They kept me there for another 20, 30 minutes. I seen other people that were there in holding cells. And at that time, I asked for water. They declined my water. And I also asked for medical assistance because my hands were numb and my back was hurting because he pushed me down and he put his whole body weight. They told me we don't have any medical staff at the facility. So I said, can I get water at least? They declined. And I guess finally some lady listened. I told her, yo, can you turn on my phone? I have my passport card. And she finally let me use my phone. I showed her. And she said, okay, we still have to do your fingerprints. I did my fingerprints. And they finally let me go. And I asked them earlier today, you told me you were going to take me back to Cedar where you picked me up at. Are you guys going to still offer me a ride? Because at that point, I didn't know if anyone knew where I was because they turned off my phone. They turned off my location. You don't know where you're at. So I asked them, can you take me back to where you picked me up from? They said, no, you have to walk in the snow. They were being serious. I asked 3 times. They said, no, you're walking. But eventually my parents came and picked me up. And yeah, all I did was step outside as a Somali American, and I just got chased by a masked person. The agent then One point he didn't identify himself. He didn't say ice, stop. Like, I felt like I was getting assaulted. I was getting kidnapped, and that's exactly what it was. And the way they were treating me, it was inhumane.
I mean, tons of stories. There was another video of ICE taking a woman that they had detained into a porta potty, and so this is happening at a rampant pace in Minneapolis, and so I know Greer probably hard crushed because she has a son, and anybody in the chat that has a son, I mean, this could happen to your son.
Yeah. And the scanning your face, what is that really about? You remember the Doge stole all everyone's information. And so
talk about that.
Just think about that. It's something's going on with that face scanning. Why do you need to scan his face?
And then the idiots, and then when he finally says, okay, this shit don't work. And you have to pay attention to some of the things he was saying. The two guys weren't from there because they said they said this was their first detainee. He said they had the maps out, so they really weren't familiar, obviously, with the territory. And then they had this equipment that they couldn't work. They couldn't work the fingerprints. They couldn't work the scanner.
I don't believe any of that. I think that this is a part of the, why you want this man. So he got, if you have ID and a passport, and what you need to scan my face for? They're collecting data on people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but and it also goes back to Lauren Live show says we're going to learn later that these are Proud Boys pardon. But the point she said these idiots are not law enforcement. They are not sworn police. That's why they don't know how to work the equipment, because they have not gone through official training. The chief of Philly is correct. Professional law enforcement doesn't do this and has no need for masks. So I think it's a combination of it all. But based upon what that young man was saying, I don't think they knew what they were doing. They didn't know how to work the high-tech equipment because they probably were Proud Boys with barely a high school education.
All right. Just they have masks because they want media to find out who they are and why. This stuff is really, it's so disconcerting. So many things going on. This is why.
This is infuriating.
It's infuriating, and it's. Go ahead, Greer. Go ahead.
It's hard. We keep saying Black folks, we've been through this before. We can handle. But when you see stuff like this, you know what I'm saying? I called my daughter and I was talking to her about her and her boyfriend walking trying to tell her, like, remain calm because one of you has to go free so you can tell someone. You know what I mean? We're the only people on the planet that have to tell our children how to survive just to walk out the door. Right. And hell, Niele said she having a mental health. She needed a mental health day. We need one every day.
We need at least 3 hours a day.
I mean, really, we need one every day. This is just, and so, listen, I'm not going to announce the plan on the street out here on this call right now. But like I said yesterday, all those Negroes that said I could never be a slave, here's your opportunity. Because this sister yesterday, she broke it down, and I think I sent it to you all when she, reminded us what happened, 100 years, after slavery, going through Reconstruction. Like they were literally, Jim Crow was about putting us back in chains. They're going door to door.
Door to door.
And in, and in ballrooms, dancing to old gay show tunes while people are getting arrested.
And on Sundays, praising the Lord. Let's not forget about that. On Sundays,
we know that Donald Trump is sleeping on Sundays.
Oh, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about his base. I'm talking about these
right.
They
clueless.
Terrorizing us.
They don't know nothing but what they hear him say. We keep watching these videos of these people repeating the things that he says. Everybody's a gang member, and it's clearly like they're so out of touch with their own racism. I watched, I think it was the young, I forget who it was, those guys who stop people on the street, and the question was, should we close the borders, in Canada? Well, no, but we should close them in. And they said 60% of the people across the border illegally in Canada are Mexican. Should we close the border? Well, no. Why? Because it's a white border.
Yeah, but the interesting part is, if you think about it, they're in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and the biggest populations of Latinos would be Texas and Florida. You don't hear about ICE stories happening there. Those are just things that make you say, Think about Texas, Florida, huge populations of undocumented immigrants. They're not there.
Not there.
But what's happening? And speaking of rights, what's happening with civil rights, Stacy?
Well, other than mine continue to be violated. Yeah, by the very black press you talk about. But anyway, Trump has said that the Civil Rights Act has led to white people being very badly treated. And that has drawn some sharp rebuke from people like Al Sharpton, the NAACP. He says white people were treated very, very badly, where they did extremely well, and they were not invited to go into a university to college, according to Donald Trump. He's out of his mind. That's the bottom line.
I find it interesting that Donald Trump is talking about this on a week where we are preparing to honor, one of the biggest civil rights leaders in this country. And I'm talking about Dr. King. And so I find it interesting that would be one of his starting talking points for the week. And I think I was sharing this with Greer yesterday, but I feel like, civil rights socked him and his daddy in the eye back in the 70s, when, they were found, they had that civil rights lawsuit against them for housing in New York. So he has always had an issue with civil rights, because civil rights kicked his ass, him and his daddy's ass, okay? When they were disenfranchising Black tenants in New York. And so it's like everything to me, and this is my conspiracy theory, always ends up about his dad. Like we talk about wildest ancestors' dreams. Civil rights kicked him and his daddy's ass. And so he's coming forward, and he's very disrespectful about it, because he's doing it during a week where, if it wasn't for people like Dr. King and the Big Six and many individuals, which are our grandparents and grandparents, fought for us to have these liberties, the disrespect that he's given us this week. This is when I can really double down with you, Stacy, and really be like, how could a Black person, civil rights is our thing. It is part of our liberation. And it doesn't just liberate us, but it liberates white women. It liberates other minorities. And how could you, knowing that they're trying to strip all of that away from us, and then he gonna spit in our face this week? But let's not forget that civil rights kicked him and his daddy's ass in the 70s. And I wish a reporter would say that to him in that White House this week.
Yeah, it wouldn't happen. Again,
it's not going to happen.
They want to get on Lynn Jones in that press conference. What goes on at that White House? Oh my gosh! But my question is, what triggered this time? He's already put in motion everything possible to destroy everything that has anything to do with civil rights, women's rights, Black rights, etc. What in the world is it that he's about to bomb somebody else and he's looking for a distraction?
I think that he's being bitter and disrespectful to Black people by doing it this week. He could have picked any other week in any other month, but why would you double down and make that one of your major headlines this week? I think it's totally disrespectful. I think it's reminiscent. It's reminiscent of who he is, you know, what he did to the exonerated five, what he and his daddy did to Black folks and with those tenants. That's what I'm saying. Civil rights kicked his ass. It's Dr. King week, which means that when we talk about Dr. King, we talk about the civil rights movement. And we talk about how it took a village. It wasn't Dr. King, just Dr. King. It was the NAACP. It was the Urban League. It was CORE. It was the SCLC. It was Baynard Rustin. It was, you know, Rosa Parks. It was, you know, it was Fannie Lou Hamer. It was tons of Black folks that, you know, like we're in church, like, I don't want to get to name it because I'm going to forget somebody. Blame my mind, not my heart. But, you know, it was a movement of people, white people too. You know, it was a movement of people that made that change for everybody. And he and his clan got a problem with it. So they're going to be disrespectful this week. They're going to be that. And I find this highly disrespectful for him to do this week.
Well, and then I think the answer to it just popped into my head, and I just realized that the closer we are getting to King Day, that's his goal. This is a precursor to him saying that he's going to eliminate that as a you know, a national holiday.
Yeah, and I guess it's going to be a Keith Ellison thing, like, you know, we'll bring it back after he's gone.
Yeah. Well, wasn't it a state holiday? Wasn't it states honored it before the federal government did anyway?
Some states did, yeah.
Some states, yeah.
And then thanks to Stevie Wonder, some bold congressional Black Caucus members, and of course, Coretta Scott King, you know, it became a holiday.
Yeah. All right. The 15th anniversary of the Black Diverse Intelligence series by Nielsen with Martin Luther King Day approaching is coming up. It's happening. It's a new report examining how Black audience continues to shape media consumption, advertising effectiveness, and platform growth, and why representation remains a business imperative as audience fragment. The report comes out on the 15th of this month, but a sneak peek shows that 71% of Black audience say they still feel misrepresented in media, a perception that directly shapes engagement. At the same time, representation is proven to be a performance lever. Black audience are 2.5 times more likely than the general population to say representation is the strongest motivator for engaging with new content, and 67% pay more attention to ads that reflect their culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we gotta see when this report comes out 2 days from now, actually. So we'll see more, dig more into it. Sad story, Niele. Former Black press photographer was killed in a car wreck in Washington, D.C. This was a terrible accident not far from the White House. Aaron Markel Williams, he was just 26 years old. He was a photographer for the Washington Informer and a member of the Greater Mount Calvary Church, who he was taking pictures for at the time. He was tragically killed. It was caused by a reckless driver while on his way to take the photos for the church. It occurred on the 7th of January at the intersections of 16th and L Street in Northwest DC, just before 4 p.m. And Metropolitan Police said that the incident certainly could have been avoided.
Prayers to his family for sure.
Yeah, and I knew, well, I mean, I worked with him a little bit. I knew him a little bit. I didn't know a whole lot about Markel, but Misha Green, the Informer's managing editor, Hamil Harris, and the rest of the team there worked. The others on the team, I should say, worked a lot closer with Markel. And I was at one of their meetings the other day, and we were talking about Markel. And this is the second big loss for the Informer family in the last month or so, with James Wright dying unexpectedly last month. And now Markel, at the very young age of 26, having his life cut short by a reckless driver.
Well, we'll definitely keep his family, as well as the Washington Informer family, in our prayers. In another story, according to the Griot, Black communities are facing a growing crisis. What else is new, right? But I'm talking about collapsing wastewater systems, sewage flooding homes, and dangerous health risks. Now, Illinois, Alabama, and Mississippi families are living with undertreated sewage as federal aid meant to fix these problems was rolled back. Now, advocates warn that these aren't DEI cuts, they're health, safety cuts hitting Black communities the hardest by failing systems and decades of neglect. And we know that Joe Biden's infrastructure bill, a lot of the funding was addressing these types of issues. And when we think about redlining, all of this was part of that big infrastructure bill that Biden rolled out. And he had Pete Buttigieg, transportation going all across the country, talking about the issues in communities, in people of color communities, Black communities. And so here you have the impact of Black people now getting sick and having bad sewage, and the federal government has stopped the funding. And of course, if the state doesn't have it, they can't afford to fix it. And if you're in a red state in a Black community, forget about it.
Yeah, you make a great point with the infrastructure bill. What you can say what you want about Biden. Obviously we've been heavily critical of him, but that infrastructure bill was phenomenal. It was one of the most forward-thinking, current and forward-thinking pieces of legislation. And it was scheduled, and Trump is rolling back a lot of it, but it was scheduled to really do some great stuff. It was on track, I should say, to do some great stuff across this country.
Right. And it's gone now because of Trump and his clan. But we have some HBCU headlines for you. The United Negro College Fund has released a study and found that 61% of students reported being unfamiliar with HBCUs, and more than half said their counselors rarely, never mention an HBCU. Now, the report recommends increasing visibility around scholarships and financial aid, along with stronger teacher training and anti-bias training for school staff. And so this study, Stacy, said that it was more so with, of course, students of not of Black descent, but that multiracial and Black students, they were at a high percent as well. And I can kind of agree with this study, because I really was introduced to HBCUs through a different world. When I was in high school, right? It was a different world for me. So I'm glad that they're doing a reboot, because it sounds like we need a different world reboot.
A lot of people, it's funny because a lot of people were introduced to HBCUs through a different world.
Yeah, I think we need that reboot because it's gonna make a difference. I can see the viral clips going now and the Throwback Thursday clip. Let's do it, because when we look at what's happening with our institutions now and what Trump is doing, it's going to be harder for young Black boys and girls to get into PWIs. So why not have them go where they're welcomed, they're nurtured, and they develop into all-stars? That happens at HBCU. It happens. Let's go to Indianapolis, where a nearly 50-year-old Black educational institution is coming to an end. Now, it's called Martin University, which was founded in 1977 to serve low-income, disenfranchised students, where they're closing their doors after decades of being a lifeline for those shut out of traditional higher education. Now, the Board of Trustees says the school couldn't survive today's political climate or the financial strain of serving students who often couldn't afford a full tuition. So, with no endowment and rising debt, the school voluntarily has resigned its accreditation and voted to cease operations.
You know, it's a lot more of chaos and destruction. This is part of destruction, you know, and the aftermath of stuff that this administration has wrought. All of this stuff goes back to that. I mean, we're only talking not even a year in.
Yeah. Well, let's head to Morris Brown, where this is some Black talk. You know, you can't blame white man for this one. Morris Brown College president Dr. Kevin James announced on LinkedIn that he was terminated by the Board of Trustees without a specific cause or explanation. Now, under his leadership, the college regained full accreditation, restored access to federal financial aid, and he grew enrollment. I remember when I had the opportunity to interview him when he first was fighting to get the accreditation back, and to see him get it back for the school, get their financial aid. I'm just curious to know what happened over there. Does anybody in the chat know from Atlanta?
Yeah, that right.
What happened? I'm sure there's more to the story. But yeah, I don't know. So we know that today we were supposed to have a guest from the NAACP, but they rescheduled to Thursday. So we'll have them on to talk about civil rights, talk about representation. But we were going to talk about the NAACP awards today. And of course, the nominations dropped yesterday. But a couple of takeaways were the most nominated were Kendrick Lamar, Tiana Taylor, Doechii, and Cardi B. I find that interesting. Interesting list of lineup for the NAACP to put out. But a couple of other things, Charlemagne the God did big because of a lot of his projects. You know, Native Podland was nominated. Shout out to my homegirl Melissa Ford for her Hot and Bothered podcast was nominated. And so this is the only space, Stacy, where, you know, Black people are to take center stage outside the BET Awards. So what did you think about the nominee list?
Yeah, so I know that we intend to have Karen Boykin Towns on from the NAACP Image Awards. I want you to ask her, please. I want somebody to ask her. It just seems that they go after what and who's popular instead of what and who's good. And not saying that some who are popular are not good, because, you know, you mentioned some names that are good, but I think it's more of a ratings grab, a let me see who I can hang out with type thing, you know, than it is authentically. You know, we criticize the Academy Awards for not, you know, giving the award to those who deserve it, particularly Black artists. And so what the NAACP Image Awards, for the most part, not in all categories, but for the most part, seems to me, they do too much of, okay, this one is who people want to see, this actor, this actress, or this podcast or that podcast. It's whatever's going to bring them clicks, instead of saying, you know what, we got the ladder. We up this ladder. Let me pull y'all up too.
Well, I'm not saying that you're wrong, but I think there's a side that you're not talking about. And that's when award season comes around. You have to campaign. So unless you submit to be considered for nomination, which is like maybe it's like an $800 fee. You have to do that, but you just can't submit. You have to campaign. And the NAACP does offer it's a fee, but to be able to get into in front of certain spaces, you know, to be a contender. I mean, I've been to the NAACP Hollywood Bureau offices here in LA, and it's located in the SAG building, and they have like a screening room. So I've been like, you can pay to have a screening to get in front of some of the voting voters, or maybe the high stake voters, because anybody can vote. But there's also a process. So, you know, the more money you have, the more you can put behind your campaign. That also works to your advantage to become a nominee. And in some of the nominees, we don't know who they are. They're mixed with like a high profile person. So, you know.
And again, y'all are missing something, not saying something that is the case, not just for our industry, but if you work in entertainment, period, because even news at this point is entertainment, right? You cannot function without corporate dollars. And these names that we're talking about, they're the big names. They're the ones that are bringing money in. And so oftentimes when you're dealing with these corporations, the audience should understand is that you got to say, oh, yeah, we're nominating Tiana Taylor to get that Coca-Cola money. You know what I mean? You do. You have to say that you have big names on the bill to get that money, that these are the invited guests. And that's really what a lot of this comes down to. So you're going to fall and you're going to be held captive to this business model, because that's what capitalism is about.
Right. It's a business.
That's what it's about.
So like, even with the Academy Awards, I'm sorry, Stacy, just want to get this out. Even with, you know, there are these movies and like, I've never heard of that movie before. It's because they did something to get somebody's attention. And so that's what it's about too. You know, I don't think it's just about, I think, yeah, some are given, you know, but at the same time, you know, you have to be strategic on who you have on your programming, you know, as an EP. What relationships do you have to get out in front of the people to become a nominee? And you have to have some money, just like to win a campaign and elect. You can't just run for office. You got to have money. You got to file to get registered. Then you got to have money to campaign. So it definitely is a business. It's not just, you know.
Lauren says NAACP is a corporate functioning entity. I hear, and so the other side for me personally, and I know most people don't feel this way, I don't want to campaign for an award. I just don't. If I deserve it, give it to me.
But then don't go to be nominated then.
Well, I was once nominated for an NAACP award, Image Award. I just don't believe in campaigning. I don't believe in campaigning. No, I did not. I don't believe in campaigning for an award. I never believed in campaigning for awards. Just this, like we have news awards and stuff. Like Denise, for instance, at the Washington Informer, like every year, she's like, you know, I need you to put in for this or that. No, if you think it's worthy, if the editors think it's worthy, let them put it in. When I worked for White Media, by the way, they put it in and I won. I won plenty of awards when they put it in. I'm not campaigning for an award, but that's me.
Just a couple more headlines to get through before we get out of here. L.A. Reid, I'm talking about Babyface, Loveface, The Deal. Remember L.A. Reid? So L.A. Reid has reached a settlement yesterday. The same day, jury selection was set to begin in the federal sexual lawsuit brought on by Drew Dixon. Now, Dixon sued Reid in 2023, accusing him of sexual assault and alleging that the harm followed her professionally. Now, in court filing, she said the situation cost her producer points and career opportunities tied to artists, including Kanye and John Legend. And we know that John Legend was scheduled to testify. So Reid has denied the allegations, but he cashed her out.
Yeah, listen. I read this lawsuit and listen, he had to have done something wrong. To me, when somebody says sexual assault and you settle before it goes to court, then to me it's I may have done something here that's not right. You did something not right, right? I don't get it. In her suit, she said that twice he did this. Twice. And so on both sides, look, it takes a more intelligent person than me to understand both sides. How do you do that? How do you in a situation allow yourself to be in a situation where this alleged predator, cannot multiple times attack you on different occasions? I have a problem wrapping my head around that. But again, like I said, people more intelligent than me probably have a better answer. So I'll leave. And Drew, he's not the only one that she has sued. So it's really interesting.
And in final headline for today is Mary J. Blige just announced her Vegas residency. That's right, MJB is going to Viva Las Vegas. Now, she announced it yesterday as she is celebrating a birthday this month. And her residency will run May 1 through 9 and July 10 through 18th at Park MGM. So it's like everybody is getting their residency and getting their bag. I love this for especially for 90s and 2000 artists. Like the Jodeci resident was off the chain, had a chance to see that. The New Edition residency, off the chain. Mariah loves Vegas, so Vegas is becoming a cash cow for 90s and 2000 artists.
With all these residencies, you're right. Yeah, absolutely right. So Mary J. All right, we're gonna get some black facts before we get out of here. Okay. On this date in 1913, Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated, as Orangey alluded to earlier, was created by 22 Howard University students who were previously members of AKA, another sorority founded on Howard's campus. Their organization was formed to have its own identity, stronger political leanings, and to spur social activism within the Black community. So that's what happened on this date back in 1913. Delta Sigma Theta was created.
And congratulations to the ladies of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated. And I know Joteka Addy, who is head of what is it, Black Women Lead, or what is it, Black Women, one of the Black women organizations. She sang this really cute song to all her sorrows. And so, happy good day to them. And as we talk about civil rights, and we think about the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the Voting Rights Act of 1964, on this day in 1966, the first Black cabinet member, Robert C. Weaver, was nominated by President Lyndon B. Johnson to be the first African-American cabinet member serving as the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development.
Nice. Very nice. It's lots and lots of history that folks want to erase.
And let's remember, at the end of the day, the word for the day is civil rights kicked Donald Trump and his daddy's ass in the 70s. Okay, just remember that. Civil rights kicked their ass. Okay. And on that note, if you want to get unapologetic, if you want to get love like Miss Lynn is giving, if you want to get the truth, you want to head over to BlackPressUSA.com. Just go along with it, Stacy.
Go along with it. Okay. Listen, I'm just looking at RNG said thick thigh saves lives. So we'll end on that note.
No.
Okay, man. We'll end on what Niele said.